Okay. I'm going to skip over this. This is just the basic introduction for anyone that's new to Theosophical Society. And then this is, I thought it's good to begin this presentation today with the foreword from At the Feet of the Master. Because the first few essays, the first three essays actually essentially talk about at the feet of the master, the basic qualification that would listed in the at the feet of the master, chapter 1, chapter 2, and so on. The foreword is to those who knock. From the unreal, lead me to the real. From darkness, lead me to light. And from death, lead me to immortality. And the sayings geared toward those earnest and willing individuals that tire of these fleeting thoughts and all that lasts only one lifetime, and really want to make the world a better place for everyone. So the very first essay, the title of the very first essay is Beauty versus Glamour. And the verse that would display at the very beginning of the essay is, beware lest dazzled by elusive radiance, thy soul should linger and be caught in this deceptive light. So David actually recommend that we go through this particular exercise where we name a few examples of, oh, I misspelled beauty. And the guideline that he was given to us is true beauty lose none of its charm over time, and glamour, which appear first to be really exciting and novel, eventually reveal itself to be superficial and hollow. So what are some of the examples that you could come up with in terms of true beauty versus glamour?
I think Hollywood is glamour.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't catch that.
Hollywood.
Okay. What about beauty?
Beauty is seen by the mind's eye, not by the physical eyes. It's much deeper.
Yeah. It's essentially more spiritual, like Lynn say over here. I don't know, you can hear online or not. So the
different beauty, you are speaking in a frame of mind in comparison to what is not beauty. So true beauty not really exists unless you have the opposite, to compare what is true. Because you're constantly comparing what is true, what is not true. Beauty all by itself, there's no beauty. Beauty is in the observer and interpretation of a viewer. So if you take the viewer out, you take out the vision, there'll be no beauty at all.
Totally true, Tai. Beauty is in the behold, the observer, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you don't have inner beauty, then we can't see beauty, because we see everything from how we perceive, right? With our perception. If you perceive beauty, then you will see beauty. You can see beauty in everything. Glamour is everything that is outside of us. And even if you don't feel good, you will watch something and it's all glamour, and then it fades away.
Yes, but it's still in the frame of a viewpoint.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's you cannot escape a viewpoint. Beauty or not beauty is still in a viewpoint. If you take a viewpoint away, you have no beauty. And you neither have beauty nor non-beauty. So saying that something is beauty, something is constant, something is versus something that's not constant, is still in the frame of someone's mind. So you're going through an angle, you're not really leave things alone. You keep interpreting. You see, that's the problem of seeing things through an interpretation, through a language, through a viewpoint. The mind, it keeps constantly throwing its perception, its observer, its view, its angle, its everything onto the thing that is looked at, and never left the thing that look at alone. This is where meditation come in. You don't do anything with the thing that arise in your mind. You left it alone. You don't call it beauty. You don't recognize that this is good. You don't see it, this is bad. You left everything alone. That's how you detach from it. So these two sentences, beauty and glamorous, both of them are in the viewpoint. They still in the realm of mind.
Yeah, the example that I give here, this I just throw out some example. Beauty, most of the time you refer to someone as elegant or virtuous, and then glamour is, of course, is like Shanti say, the Hollywood thing, right? Where Paris is a city that is glamorous. Hollywood make it glamorous. And then, of course, our entertainment, in the entertainment industry, always feature the rich and the famous people as the glamorous one. And then David actually went on to make this comment, you know, if you had this list 10 to 20 years ago, would your answer have been the same?
I think it goes back to what Ty says. Our perception 20 years ago would have been different with our perception today, so it would have changed. It's all about how we perceive things in our mind.
Yes, it's the interpretation of 10 or 20 years ago may be different than the interpretation that we have right now. And then would some of the item that is now in the second column have appeared in the first? So would you shift between the two columns, between glamour and beauty? Oh, they all gibberish. They all mixed together, like Lynn say over here. And then the last question he has, if this is the case, how do you account for the change of your perspective? What is it that changed your perspective? Knowledge?
Experience, I mean, through your life experience,
Yes,
as you go through life,
I
I
would
think
agree.
your perceptions changes, of perception of things change. Could be knowledge. Knowledge, knowledge, only when you experience the knowledge you have studied becomes your truth. And when it becomes your truth, then your perception changes.
Yes, I have to agree with that. It's come true knowledge come with your exposing. You have to experiencing that for yourself. Then now you can gain that knowledge through your own experience, and then your perception, the way you perceive things, kind of transform, evolve out of that experience.
True.
So without experience, one cannot just read a book and say, "Oh, now I'm intelligent. I am understand," but not until you actually go through it. So yeah, to answer your question, is I will have to agree with Shanti that exposing, go through the experience and gain the knowledge and transform the perception from one to the other.
And life is supposed to be experiential anyway. It's not conceptual. I mean, we can have a lot of concepts and read, but once what we experience is what becomes our truth. So, and I believe we're put here on earth to experience different things, and from our experience we learn and we change and we evolve.
Yeah, I believe part of the change in perspective had to do with the superficial that he mentioned here. So most of the time, I don't know, you travel a whole lot. If you travel a whole lot, you heard about cities like Paris and all the famous places, and then you would set expectation in your mind, for example, that how beautiful it is and how nice it is and so on. And then I don't know, you had a feeling when you visit that place or that city, you experience it and you see, oh, it's not as I expected. It's not as nice and it's not as beautiful as I expected. And that's when your perspective actually changed. And then that's when reality actually kick in, and then you formulate a new perspective now, a new perception of that city or that place.
True. It reminds me of my experience. For example, Dubai, right? When you see Dubai and what you show on TV, they all show you the glamorous part, the buildings and the expensive part, and how the rich people live. I've been to Dubai 3 times, and I've seen how the rich people live, and I've seen how the poor people live. It's shattering.
Dubai?
It's shattering. All the people who come from other countries live in 7 or 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment trying to make a living, but they don't show that on TV. They show the glamour.
Yeah, most of the news media these days, the picture that you get from them is something that capture the excitement, right? They don't show you all the bad angle, but only the good stuff.
Right. They show you their predefined intention, what they want to review, not they're not living to the true news reporting. They're not reporting anything. They already give it you and they already make up your mind for you. Instead of presenting the news and then we determine, how it is, they are already determining what they want to present.
And to be fair, I think, okay, they're doing their job. If we look at things from a higher perspective, they're doing their job. But I think it's up to each of us as individuals not to be subconsciously programmed into everything we read and we see, and to discern for ourselves. So how we can so be easily programmed when we continuously see something or hear something and that becomes our truth, and then we start believing it, and then when we believe it, we start, it creates a behavior and a habit and so on. So that's why we're here as Josephus. We do the meditation, we study, and we know better, right?
Yes. Social media, especially social media, had a lot of the term clickbait. I mean, they have to show the glamorous and those things that are eye-catching to get the people to click on them. I mean, it's their source of revenue, so that's why they have to do it that way. But I think each one of us has the moral obligation to really consider, is it good for the society in terms of doing those things? So he go on to mention that emotion and feeling are powerful forces in the lives of virtually every human being. Sooner or later, we must learn to gain self-control over our desired nature. And then he present this particular, he didn't actually describe the pyramid, but I thought it was good to put this into a diagram. That way it's easier to view and then understand where we're at. He mentioned that the majority of the people on Earth right now live in the lives of sensation. Basically, pleasing sensation are the end all and be all of all their existence. And then there's very few at the very top of the pyramid that live in a transcendent lifestyle. And they use essentially what is called discriminative wisdom, or the term that's used in Sanskrit is viveka, to consistently apply that as a means of severing their emotional bond from the deceptive lure of shallow and short-lived attraction. So essentially, like Dee was saying, this is how you got to learn how to disassociate yourself from these attraction, these like and dislike, because when you let your emotional body attract or repel against the like and dislike, and you build it over time, it becomes a bad habit, and then you develop this sense of attachment essentially throughout your life, and it's very difficult to give up. And then he described there's a mixed set of people where they are somewhere in between, a gradient set of people, somewhere in between the people that had transcended and the people that still living in the life of sensation. And those mixed people are still aspiring to a lofty and selfless goal, but they are still susceptible to the temptation of sensual pleasure and personal vanity. So somewhere along this pyramid, we are somewhere along there, and as always, it's good to have lofty goal and aspire to those lofty goals when we live. There's this quote that I found. It's not in the essay itself, and I think this rings true to this particular essay. Truth is eternal, like T say, something that is constant. It does not change no matter how long it takes over time. Knowledge is changeable, and that's the problem with the mind focusing on obtaining more knowledge, and more knowledge. The more knowledge you obtain, the mind will constantly change as it understand that knowledge, as it integrate that knowledge. But wisdom, true wisdom, or the truth itself, is eternal, is constant, it does not change. And then the final statement here is this: it is disastrous to confuse them. So that's the quote from Madeleine L'Engle. The next essay, so that very first essay is talking about the chapter 1 of At the Feet of the Master. It's essentially the discrimination or discernment, knowing what is the real and the unreal. And then this next chapter, cultivating the divine indifference, is essentially talk about desirelessness of Viagra. So in here, in this particular essay, the verse that he used is thy soul gaze center on the one pure light, the light that is free from affection. And that's verse 255. So we know that purity is recognized in many traditions as a prerequisite to spiritual advancement. But what exactly is the problem with affection? So is affection the same as compassion? And then he gave this summary right here. Some people are strongly swayed by attraction and repulsion. They allow these feelings to define their sense of who they are. It is the purpose of emancipating oneself from the emotional tether that aspirants are urged to practice Viagra, which has been defined as desirelessness, and they do not suggest a lethargic individual, completely lacking in drive and initiative. Claricott defined Viagra as divine indifference. It's essentially the ability to stand serene and steady under all circumstances. And the voice of the silence describe it as becoming indifferent to objects of perception, which we have described earlier in the first essay. And he emphasized that we should not note that it's not the same as being oblivious. Okay. Being indifferent does not mean that we become oblivious to the facts. We're still aware of the fact, but we don't let it control us. So in terms of practicing Viagra, being aware of how we judge other people through our prism of like and dislike. Observing how easily and imperceptibly our action and influenced by the pleasure-seeking principle instead of by high, lofty aspiration. And then be wary of being complacent. The human mind has been compared to a garden, and any gardener knows that seed of last season wheat may lie buried in the soil.
And weeds are easy to grow. And
They're
truth,
strong.
truth is, any farmer will know weeds are easy to grow and they'll grow fast. And unless we go in and remove them from the root cause, they'll keep growing. And we don't replace them with seeds of truth or in knowledge or what we know. So it's not easy, but it's the inner work that we have to do, right? In our brain.
Yeah, and another thing about being aware of how we judge other people. In the collected writing of HPV Volume 9, she talked a good deal about judging harshly other people. When we do that, what actually happened in the invisible world is that the defection, which is represented by the elementals on the other person, that we are judging hard, will transfer to your own aura and stay with you instead of staying with the other person. So you just did something when you judge somebody so harshly that you bring home that defect onto yourself.
So you essentially feed energy to the elemental that carry out that particular thought.
The elemental, that everything is boiled down to the very nuclear of things. Even thoughts are subdivided, and elemental are the makeup, the compound, the material, the raw material to make up thoughts. So if you have, the moment you create a thought, elementary and its the corresponding quality already formulated in the surrounding environment to create that thought. And depend on the intention of the thought, you attract the quality level of the elemental corresponding to the level of the quality of an elemental. So what happens is when you think so bad about another person, the elemental on the other person that stay with the other person kind of like jump over to yours because you have a stronger current for attraction and you providing them a playground to exercise their level of quality, which is negative. You just attracted the negative onto yourself when you judge somebody so harshly. That's what happened behind the scene. People not knowing it and keep on doing it unknowingly. That's in the collected writing, volume 9. If you want to find out more detail.
Thank you, Dee. Okay, so the next essay is Giving Without Taking. And the quote that she used is give light to all, but take from none, verse 291. The advice or moral guideline offered by religious scripture on how a human being should act in the world usually fall into two broad categories. And they typically talk about the virtue and the vices. In every one of us, there are two sides to it. The good side and the bad side. It all depends on which one wins in the end. So the guideline and advice that were given to us is to cultivate the virtue, thoughts and behavior that should be developed and strengthened. And the Buddha does this. And then weed out the vices, thoughts and behavior that should be avoided and minimized. In terms of the saying, take from none, it may be seen as a condensation of an earlier verse from the Voice of the Silence. Step out from the sunlight into the shade to make more room for others, verse 140. It essentially addresses the subtle and sometimes not so subtle tendency of craving attention, of seeking the limelight. All such tendency are impediment on the path. And shifting our attention to other and finding way to alleviate the suffering is the best antidote to self-centered habituations.
Yeah, 3. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think for maybe some of us, this verse, give light to all, but take from none, maybe might not be that useful to us because we can give light and also take light from other people too. We can take advice, their knowledge, their wisdom. So maybe somebody at the threshold of divinity might not need this, but for me, maybe I can give light, but I also accept light wherever I can.
Well, this give and take from none in a worldly view, it's more like a give and take thing. But in the theosophy, what is actually pointing out is when you take more than what you need, you actually disharmonizing the surrounding. And the whole thing about nature is all about harmonious. And anything that causing that, disrupting that harmony will forever be bounded to make amend, to make that right, to reharmonize it. So you take more than what you need, you're going to end up being bound to fix what you just did. And that is actually the law of karma. The law of karma is the law of harmony.
Yeah, I think John was saying, give light to all and accept light from all, right? And I think the quote here is a little bit different. Give light to all, but take from none. I think the take from none, he trying to clarify what it means here, which is not that you don't accept the teaching from those that are advanced higher than you, but more along the line of trying to not take away the moment of being able to shine that light onto others. Yeah, it's. I think it will become more clear when we reach the next essay. Essentially, it had to do with elevating your ego. Essentially, is the next essay that we're going to talk about. So instead of elevating the mind, you're trying to elevate your ego and trying to take the limelight. That's what this thing is saying. Don't try to take that lifeline for yourself, because by doing that, you are basically lifting your ego and not so much trying to lift your mind. I'm going to go on to the next essay here. No compliment, please. I'm feigning humility. Shun praise, O devotee. Praise lead to self-delusion. And that's verse 117. So David actually mentioned excessive praise can lead to self-delusion, self-absorption, poor judgment, reckless and irresponsible behavior, an exaggerated sense of one's ability, and even arrogance and contempt. But when warranted and in moderation, praise can be a good thing. By accepting compliment graciously and with a measure of modesty, the aspirants do not solicit praise from others, but they graciously accept it when given, without making a habit of marinating in it.
I think this goes with everything in balance, right? It comes back to everything in balance. And we don't judge anything is good, bad, right, or wrong. I mean, praise is not good or bad. So if everything is done in balance, then it's fine. So again, back to our discernment in our own way of taking it, isn't it?
Well, the thing about balance is also it's a tricky thing for the person that needs to know where the balance is. The person has to go through the whole spectrum from left to right. And then that person gonna gain that knowledge and know where the middle ground is. The person just cannot just immediately jump to the balance part
You're true. It comes with
So you have to suffer. You
Yes.
have to go through all of that. Then you're going to find out your balance.
well, so very true. I mean, all of this is experiential. It's not just black and white, right? So if someone gives me a praise, I like to marinate in it for a while. I'm going to, yeah, I want to marinate in it for a while, and then I know, okay, then I need to snap out of it. So that comes with practice, right? And not stay big-headed for the rest of my life because I know what my faults are, So I think that goes in line with what T was saying.
And go back to what you were saying, life is about living that experience moment, right? So if you just listen to somebody that tell you this is the balance, what you just did is you robbed the other person from the experience that they're supposed to have.
True. In robbing yourself of feeling good. Why would you rob yourself? Someone says something nice. Hey, I want to feel good about it for a while because I mean, I like to feel my worth, my self-worth, and oh my God, I did contribute in a positive way. Yes. And I want to celebrate that for a bit and then get on to the next thing.
That's the beauty about Buddhism and Theosophy. They don't tell you to take my word for it. They tell you, they give you a guidance and they tell you to walk through it. That's beautiful right there.
So, Tri, I'd just like to also mention that, I mean, for people in theosophy who don't go out looking for praise, if you are dealing with other people, if you are in charge of other people, if you are working with other people, and if those people do good work, it is very important, at least from my experience, that you give them the praise.
I completely agree.
Yes.
The saying that I learned is you praise lavishly and you praise often, because the majority of human beings are, after all, emotional creatures. So as emotional creature, we like that praise. I mean, there's nothing more better to build up somebody's self-esteem. So to not praise someone, that is like shooting down their self-esteem. And to me, it's very important to praise people and praise lavishly. And now this is the essay that we're talking about. Elevate your mind and not your ego. Self-graduation, gratulation, O disciple, is like onto a lofty tower, up which a haughty fool has climbed. Thereon he sit in prideful solitude and unperceived by any but himself. Verse 118. This picture right here, I thought it was kind of cool, so I added in. Pride is like adding fuel to your ego. Will always leave you burning with shame. So the voice give a more balanced and realistic approach, one that is inspirational as well as cautionary, idealistic as well as realistic. Many of the pitfalls that the aspirant will face are mentioned. including those of ignorance, attachment, fear, illusion, and impurity, to name just a few. Some are emphasized in a dramatic fashion, while others are alluded to or only mentioned in passing. I should have highlighted the pride word in the verse. The voice make use of vivid poetic imagery to drive home its message. The simile in the above citation is a case in point. What better image of pride than that of a conceited fool dwelling alone in his imaginary tower, supported only by an inflated sense of self-esteem and a chauffeur of self-adulation. I actually had to look up a dictionary what this word means, chauffeur, and that's essentially the excessive amount. Excessive amount of pride, I guess. The fact that pride is universally recognized as an impediment to spirituality, so how pervasive it is. We are not immune, even when the worldly manifestation of pride have been done away with. Often it emerged in the form of spiritual pride. We might remember the word of C.S. Lewis. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that's above you. So any comment on this in terms of the pride?
Yes, also, once again, there are organizations, there are people who basically strive because of pride. And I guess they do that to gain the experiences that are needed. So I guess we should not shoot them down when they show that they are proud.
Yes, in HPB also say in her collected writing, volume 12, that pride is also the energy motivation to propel one forward. At the same time, it is too much of it is it developed the wrong direction, but it's something that propel one's evolution going, get it moving. So it's not so bad, but to some point that person will also adjust it to her balancing out her spiritual and her self. But pride is not, it's needed where it is needed up to a point.
Yeah, to me, the word pride. Okay, let me ask, could someone let me know who is guest and zero?
That's Sergey. Hello. Zero.
Yes. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, are you Sergey?
Yes.
Okay.
I have my vision of pride. Pride is necessary. Very often in my conversation with even in United people, they use this expression. even we are poor, but we have pride. It means we don't need anything from you, your help or your advice, because they have their own pride. In some situation, to have some pride, I think can be helpful when we want to reach some additional mountains in our career. Have a pride. If somebody look at you badly, tell something about yourself, or put you down, you have your pride, not stay on the same level and try to respond with angry words or action or something else. Yes, I'm for the pride, but pride need to be rational and need to be emotional and not need to be offensive. I'm finished.
Thank you, Sergey. I completely agree with
Sorry
that.
about I still cannot work with my instrument iPad because it's been given for me by my IT nephew, and I put video, and sorry about my picture, which can move you from talking about the theosophy and philosophy. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
In terms of pride, my feedback would be similar to the example of a child. For example, a child would do a good deed or whatever, and then he will be rewarded for that. So that's the pride that the child will gain from that activity, having accomplished the activity, having proven himself or herself that it could be done. So pride is essential to a certain point, because up to a certain point, you cannot live your entire life by proving yourself worthy of something. Trying to prove yourself to be worthy, but to be accepted, especially to be accepted by everyone. And that can be very challenging and tiresome when they get to a point where your entire life is to try to build up your pride and to try to prove yourself to everyone. It can be very tiresome. Okay, so we're now in the last two chapters that talk about doctrine. And this one, the title of this one is Doctrinal Didactics. The verse that he used is learn above all to separate head learning from soul wisdom, the eye from the heart doctrine. And that's verse 111. So the word doctrine, David went on to explain actually the definition for the word doctrine, because doctrine can mean many things. So in this book is Madame Blavatsky's translation of a Buddhist text dating back millennia. Is it possible that the word doctrine means something different than it does today? If we consider the modern definition of doctrine, here are the modern definition of doctrine that he gave in the essay. Could be a governmental or state policy, like we know about the Truman Doctrine, the Reagan Doctrine, or it could be a comprehensive body of teaching or knowledge taught by qualified instructor, such as economic doctrine, Catholic doctrine, or military doctrine. Or it could be a theory supported by evidence and formulated over time through debate and critical analysis, such as in American politics, the doctrine of state right was put forth in the Federalist paper, and then later codified into what we now know as the 10th Amendment of the US Constitution. And then the major one that he gives lots of examples, the definition for doctrine is a principle or a tenet of a religion or philosophy. And the example he gave was like the Roman Catholics speak of vicarious atonement. The Protestants speak of sola fide, faith alone. The Christian tradition speak of the just war doctrine, which were first articulated by St. Augustine and then later developed more fully by Thomas Aquinas. Or the Buddhist doctrine of impermanence, which is a core principle that had been shaped and refined over time by generation of scholars. And then, of course, last but not least, for us, students of theosophy, we speak of unity, emanation, periodicity, and karma. Periodicity is essentially the law of cycle. So which one of these definitions or more of these definition of doctrine would best describe what is used in the voice of the silence? Do you think it's one of them or all of them or none of them? He actually say that the first one, the governmental or state policy, certainly is not how you want to apply the definition, that definition to the voice of the silence.
So starting to study the next chapter about the secret doctrine, it defines a doctrine is something that has undergone several years. A doctrine is something more than just an idea or a concept. It must undergo a period of intense critical analysis by experts in that practical field.
I personally lean toward the last definition, which is a principle or tenet of a religion or philosophy. So it essentially outlined in theosophy, we have outlined all the principle. But the theosophy say that, each one of us has the freedom to interpret those principles and to live by what we consider the standards. And theosophy itself does not force us into adopting those principles. It is for us to learn those principles and live those principles ourselves. So the doctrine itself, to me, the last definition fit the closest. So let's talk about the word that in this particular verse, the I versus the heart. Do you know what is the I and what is the heart? So it alluded to in the first part. The I essentially is the head learning. And then the heart doctrine is essentially the soul wisdom. So if I were to put it into a picture, it would be something like an iceberg. where the eye, which is the head learning, you can see the head of the iceberg at the top is something that is essentially visible. So if you were to go to a doctor and get a diagnosis, the doctor usually asks you for the symptoms. Anything that is visible, anything that is visible and can be perceived, that's the symptom that you're trying to treat. And then the heart itself, it knows the root cause, right? The heart itself, which is underneath the iceberg, it knows what the root cause, what is causing the issue. And that's the equivalent of the soul wisdom. So this particular essay actually tie into the next one, which is the last one for this particular session that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one.
I have some question. Now in modern philosophy, they mention that we're losing the subject, the persona, because all start to be based on the virtual reality, and virtual reality substitute the real reality, and more the heart moving away. Heart is our personality. The I is the product of our mind and all the paradigm. It's very interesting for me what you say about the doctor, but now in postmodern world, in philosophy especially, they move away from the persona, from the subject. They try to do everything universal. One language of virtual reality, one language of in computer science. And I'm thinking that soon we will be completely eliminated our heart perception and will be substituted by the universal eye vision. It means what can be infiltrated in us and it will be indoctrinated us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey. I completely agree with you. The modern science that we exposed to, most of the time they use they come from a materialistic perspective. So what they do is use the senses to detect the behavior and so on, but there's nothing that modern science can explain in terms of the subjective world, right? They can only explain the objective reality. And that's what the symptom, what I describe as a symptom of the visible stuff at the top of the iceberg. Something that can be measured, something that can be observed, something that can be visible, but you cannot detect stuff that is in the psychological arena or in the emotional or what is called the inner world, because that is now going from an objective reality into a subjective reality, which is relative to the knower, the subject itself. And every single subject has their own set of perspective and viewpoint.
Yes, and 5 seconds, and every subject have their unique perception, unique vision of anything which is around. But moving from this personal subjectivism and bring the unification, it's called unification of all our mindset, unification, and then slowly we washed away our personal subjectivism. Like example, now doesn't matter what color of your eyes you have, what high, what how you look like. Everything will be in this so-called abstract, unemotional graphic points.
Yes. The word that I usually use, holistic. You can use the word unity, but I think unity itself does not encompass the word holistic. The word holistic is you don't abandon the subjective or the objective, but you use and you combine both, and that's when you have the entire truth. Because without one, without the other, you're not going to have the complete picture, and that's not the truth. The truth is everything. So the verse that it used in this particular essay, doctrinal dilation, essentially it say that the doctrine of the eye is for the crowd, the doctrine of the heart is for the elect, verse 119. So David say that there has been one set of teaching for the multitudes and another for the chelas and disciple, as was the case in the mystery school of ancient Greek and Egypt. And it boiled down to what is considered the exoteric teaching. Exoteric teaching actually talk about what is seen, that the common folk could actually observe and understand. And then there's the esoteric teaching, and those are what is considered hidden, not really available, visible, because it's all driven by, again, we talk about the subject or the observer. And then we give the saying right here, true esoteric knowledge is not so easily won. Aldous Huxley said it well, knowledge is a function of being. When there's a change in the being of the knower, there is a corresponding change in the nature and amount of knowing. So when the subject, the knower of the observer has changed, then the knowing, the conscious knowing has also changed. And that's essentially the evolution. In other words, curiosity is not enough. Intellectual brilliance is not enough. Even adopting determination is not enough. So long as the seeker has not undergone inner transformation. So that essentially wrap up the last essay that we covered for today. There is a slide that that's not in the essay at all, but I thought it was maybe helpful if people want to focus more along the line of how do you change a particular behavior. I got this slide from work. Actually, I work for Shell, and they went through the process recently to help with mental health. They have like a week to talk about mental health, and this slide will include it in there. And they talk about the psychology of behavioral change. And it lists out essentially the 10 questions that you ask yourself, or you can interview with other people. They actually have us went through an exercise and talk with other people, do the interview and so on. And it's very helpful. So that's why I put it here today. So essentially, it walks you through the process of understanding your behavior, essentially your bad behavior, and then basically trying to determine what you want to change. And based on what you envision is the new behavior, you ask yourself these questions, and then it will hopefully review some of the things that maybe you do unconsciously, that it become more apparent. That way you can change your behavior over time. So going back to the last essay, I don't know, you have any questions? I highlight essentially inner transformation is the goal that every seeker should have. And that should be it.
In the Theosophy teaching showing the phenomenon and the noumenon, the phenomenon world is the manifestation of the noumenon. Noumenon means the subjective, phenomenon means objective. So the noumenon is born out of the noumenon. So you can't really get rid of the heart. The heart is representing by the noumenon side, the invisible side, the spiritual side. Come, and then it's, after that, it's bring out the visible world. So if you're coming backward, working from the particular to the universal, which is backward, that's what science is doing. They investigate, they dissect, they put under a microscope a particular, from a particular, and they work their way backward to the universal. So destroying the manifestation in the phenomenon world will not destroy the spiritual world, because the spiritual world is the root, the cause, the one that born, that give birth to the physical world. So science can, and back to what Mr. Zero was saying earlier, soon the heart will be gone. It won't, because it won't, is that the heart is the source. It cannot be gone, just like the tree is the trunk, the root. And the phenomenon is the branches, the tip of the leaves. So before the visible world can even manifest for science to study, the invisible world must already exist. That is the teaching. If you get this point, you wouldn't have that reverse thinking that the heart will be gone. I'm done.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that that's the beauty about Theosophy, the law of cycle. I think what the cycle that we're in right now is similar to, if you take the season, we are now approaching either fall or winter. So from the perspective of the season, fall and winter, they're decaying, dying, but it is part of the cycle. And it's not so much that it go away, it will come back. That spring and summer will come back. We just need to wait, and we just need to be patient. But with every cycle, there's always some sort of uplifting, some sort of learning, and some sort of experience that will gain, that will be better than previous cycle. Any other feedback? Shanti, John, anyone else? I don't know.
No. It was very
Farida?
good presentation. Oh, Frida, you're on mute.
Huh?
I'm unmuted now. So
Okay.
very good presentation. Thank you very much. I like your analogy of the iceberg. Makes a whole lot of sense. But I have a few points for 4 of the slides that you showed, Triet. The first one about glamour versus beauty. So I'm looking at Hollywood glamour, I'm looking at Oprah Winfrey, and I see the beauty of generosity and openness in her. I see Lady Gaga with weird hair and purple hair and weird clothes, but I see her sensitivity, the way she connects with people. I see Harry and Meghan, the royal family, diamonds, tiara, but then I also see the real life that they're looking at, the simplicity in life. So can you not see beauty in glamour?
You will have to look beyond the glamour to see the beauty.
Yeah, so did I, when I saw
You are only
Harry?
you are seeing it from how you view it, your perception, like T mentioned, it is from your eyes, it's from the beholder. And everybody sees it differently. And we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. We only know from what we hear in the news. We really don't know how honest and true what news shares with us, right? Because we don't know Harry and Meghan personally, and we haven't connected with them personally. We all have created a perception of what the news has given us, and then we create our views. Now, the only way for me, truly, the only way I can see is when I connect with that person one-on-one and see the true beauty, or you know, it's still my perception, it's still my view from my viewpoint, from my eyes. It's always going to be from the beholder. Does that make sense?
No, because you don't need to know Harry and Meghan and Lady Gaga and Oprah personally to know who they really are. But whatever the world is showing them as glory and glamour, but
Okay,
I still see the inner beauty in them. They may be all that.
So I see Oprah and all the good she has done, which is, I mean, yeah, I see the beauty and I see the glamour, which is good. I mean, I don't know. It's still from the whole beholder, unless someone else has a different view.
Maybe it doesn't require an answer, but that's what I had to say. Yeah. And also the opening slide, maybe the first or the second slide, Triet, about ignorance to truth, darkness to light, and death to immortality. Isn't that word by word from the Upanishads? Asatama sadgamaya, the Sanskrit says, tamasoma jyoti gamaya, jyoti is light, mrityoma amritagamaya, so mrityu is death to mortality. So is there a reference to the Upanishads given at any point?
Yes, that is actually it was beyond and before the Upanishad. It was from the Veda 8,000 years before BC. So that is an extraction. That first three sentences in the beginning,
Right.
it was not from Krishnamurti or from the teaching of Krishnamurti at all. It was an extraction from the Veda, the Vedic book teaching. That's
Right. The Vedas, not
right.
Krishnamurti, the
No,
Vedas, the
right.
Upanishad.
And
Yeah.
then the Veda, and then but around the 200 BC, the Upanishad exists, and is also restated in the Upanishad. So, but originally is from the Veda, which is 8,000 or more BC.
So should that reference be mentioned at some point?
Well, if you study really hard, you find out that is the truth. But if you just, you just passing through, you're not going to know about this stuff. Yeah, you just take it literally that you think that this is Krishnamurti, but it is not.
No, it's actually mentioned at the feet of the master in the foreword that those are not my word; those are of the master. So these words are from the master themselves and not of the Krishnamurti. So the word themselves, I believe, kind of like the ancient wisdom, right? The ancient wisdom have been around forever. It's just that now it put into the limelight and in a different term. But these words are of the master, and they've been around for a long time. Very.
Okay. And also, I agreed with John ideas when we were talking about giving and taking. So there are some people who are able to give because of their financial ability, the time, the capability, the generosity. But I think the givers should also be humble enough to take, so that sometimes the person who is receiving wants to give back, and it gives them the opportunity to feel good and honored and valued. So the one who is giving should also be able to take back, accept humbly from someone who is giving.
I think that's generally true for the world in general, but that may not be true for the law of karma. The problem with the law of karma is that if you start taking back those, then you get stuck in this reincarnation cycle. Imagine, the money in the bank earning interest over and over again. Every time that interest is earned, you got to use it somehow. So you get stuck in the cycle of reincarnation, and you never get free of it. If we think about it, the master has given us all these knowledge and all this best help us so much, yet they don't expect anything back, and they don't allow us to give back any of that, other than the fact that we need to spend our time and resource and effort to help other people to improve the evolution of mankind. So to do them, there's no way they no longer stuck in this cycle of reincarnation. There's no way for us to repay the debt to them. They're no longer bound by reincarnation. So if you think about that and you apply that, it's not so much that you want to take back that praise, but it is no longer the proper place to use it for. That praise need to be go out to other people where they are less than us, or whoever that still need that still want that.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Even gurus, they give you a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but they would accept a little donation from you. Is that in the same line, or am I totally out of line?
Well, okay, so yeah, when we live in this world, we still stuck in this world, and we still have bill to pay, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's the case. So even though they know that may be wrong, but you know, if you live in this world, you are still part of it, and you are still bound by it. So that financial responsibility, you got to make it up somehow, right?
Mm.
To me, getting paid, the guru getting paid is minimal. If you really consider the lesson that they give to us, it's worth a whole lot more than what they are getting paid for.
Yeah, well, definitely. But as a disciple, I should be able to give something. Is that okay to give? Is that okay for them to take?
I totally agree with Farida. I think giving and taking is an energetic exchange. If we believe everything is energy, and we just, as a disciple, just take from the guru, and we don't give, it's like donating to the lodge. Okay, how much have we benefited from the lodge? So why do we take donations? Is it wrong to take then? Then we shouldn't be giving donations to the lodge. We just sit here and take.
Yeah.
By the way, we need money for the lodge to operate.
So giving and taking is just an energetic. So everything operates, unfortunately, in this world, money. So if someone is freely giving out of their heart, there is nothing wrong in accepting a gift. In that, I mean, whether it's monetary, it's service or anything we do, right? But not, the thing is not expecting. They don't expect anything, but if you're giving, it's I believe it's okay to take. There's nothing wrong in that. And again, do we truly understand karma? I mean, there's so many versions of karma, right? I think giving.
Yeah, so it's not payback, but it's the term I think is Guru Dakshina, which means offering to the guru. So that's all. I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The term that he used is accepting compliment graciously and with a measure of modesty.
Right.
That's
I
true.
also have one definition of the beauty. The beauty is universal and does not matter how our mind and eye and heart is connected. Everybody see the beauty in world miracles, or in sunshine, or in the Beethoven Sonata 9, or Taj Mahal in India, or some bridge in one of the in Los Angeles. I am just thinking about the concept. Remember, you said the concept of beauty. I cannot explain. For me, still is the mystery how the one object can create the feeling of beauty from different personalities, from different people all over the world, but they say, wow, it's a beauty, like a Mona Lisa or something else. Can you explain me how this rational perception, and we unfortunately say, yes, this is a beauty, maybe before we have insight of our mind or wherever subconsciousness the image of beauty, and some object immediately create universal feeling that this is a beauty. Thank you.
So maybe in the spirit there's an archetype of beauty, and because it said that in everybody there's beauty. If you can just go beyond the surface. So if we can perceive that universal essence of beauty, then that's how we perceive it. So people might have the glamour, but inwardly there's beauty. And it's up to us to perceive.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree with John. The inner beauty, I think, is the focus. Inner beauty take times, and it take experience, and it take knowledge. So, you know, it take time and so on to build up that inner beauty. And in meditation as well, there are different methods of meditation where you focus on the beauty of the inner beauty of nature. For example, Ed Abdul actually sent out, I don't know if anyone registered or email him. He sent out there's some meditation technique on nature where you learn how to appreciate looking at nature and looking at the mountain range, looking at your garden, looking at the house or whatever it happened to be, and you meditate on it. And it keeps you recognizing and discovering that inner beauty within what you're perceiving. So the inner beauty is universal. It just is always there. It's just that you get so caught up in life, you get so busy and caught up in life that sometimes you fail to recognize the inner beauty.
Yes, I follow what you say, but I mean about universal concept of beauty. How we understand this is a beauty, and how we get this, how we get to this feeling that this is a beauty, is from our eye or from our heart. This is just like a mystery. When you look, as you say, oh, this is a beauty. It can be face, it can be sculpture, it can be music, it can be the text, but something like a spark. And we never make a mistake. This is something like a magic light go to us, and we say, oh, this is a beauty. And does not matter how intelligent we are, how old we are, what experience of meditation or philosophy we have, we immediately recognize the beauty, because they're universal, like a beauty of Buddha, of Christ, of sky, of the moon, of sun. I just try to make, not overthink. I just try to comprehend how this beauty things contact with the presentation of Theosophy Society today.
I think I kind of understand what you going after here. I think you're trying to say, what is it, the one thing that make the thing beautiful?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's what you're trying to ask.
Yes.
Whether it is music, whether it is a picture, whether it is what you're looking at, what is it that determine the essence of beauty, right? That's what you're asking, right? Well, I've talked about this before. It is boiled down to harmony. when you, for example, if you take a music instrument and you make it out of tune, it's all messed up. And when you play the tune, it doesn't, and the tune is too loose, you cannot make that sound. So the sound become not pleasant. But as soon as you tune the instrument, the guitar or the bass or the cello into the proper place, when you play the sound will resonate with harmony because now it's balanced. That's one example from music note. So let's say you look at an architecture and it's all crooked and everything. And you look at it and say, that's not beautiful. There's something wrong with it. But as soon as that architecture is all lined up and horizontally and vertically and balanced out, suddenly when you look at it, you say, oh, this is beautiful. Well, actually, because it's in harmony, it's balanced in structure. So what you actually feeling and seeing is emanating from the harmonious side of things internally, and you express it outwardly. You call this literally on your lips, you call this beautiful, but internally you sense it. This is balance. This is harmony. That's what that is, right in the middle of it. So that's my explanation for what determines how do you see things and what determines things beautiful, because it is in balance, it's in harmony. That's it.
So Sergey, does that answer what you are trying to ask in terms of universal? Look like he's on mute. Okay. Yeah, to me, beauty is a snapshot in time. What's considered beautiful today may not be beautiful tomorrow to a particular person. Or what was not beautiful to a particular person today could be beautiful to a particular person days from now or years from now. So it's all relative. And the nature of beauty is it changes as well. I think it's good to make it clear that beauty is not the same as perfection. Beauty is the different step or different stages of moving along the line to become perfection. And it's not something, okay, if you talk about universal beauty, so that everyone can agree on it, I think you're going to have to talk about perfection. And that's very difficult to reach, especially in our stage of evolution. Okay. If there's no other comment or feedback, I go ahead and want to close this down. I want to thank you everyone for contributing today. It was a very lively discussion, and thank you for participating. As always, I try my best to put together the slide, but it is the feedback and the involvement and the input that everyone contribute that actually make it a beautiful study, group study for us. So thank you, and I will stop the recording.
Triet, I'd like also to thank you very much for putting all these presentation together. I know that you did this month, and last month also you did it. So I guess we have to get other members to assist.
Thank you, Triet. This was a great
This one.
presentation. Yes.
Well, I mean, you don't have to do every single one, but if you have one that you really want to put together a slide, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to let you take just one. And this go out to everyone, not just the member. Go out to Farida as well. Sergey, I would love to hear a feedback or presentation from you. It doesn't matter, just pick one essay that you think that that you can talk to, and then as always, we're here to learn together. So don't be afraid to speak up. You don't even have to put together a slide. Just pick the particular essay, as long as you have the willingness to contribute and to help our group study. Go ahead and jump in. I'll be more than happy to include whatever you want to talk about. We got plenty of essay left. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.